I knew, they knew my strikes weren't going to do anything. But the main thing was that the more tired they got, the more advantage I got. And that's exactly how I won. I did the first tournament. My ring was the most crowded ring to watch because everyone was, it was unlike anything that they had done before to have a female and a male. But Eskrima knows no boundaries, right? And that's just what I was taught is like, if you're alone, you've got to fight whoever you fight.
My guest for this episode is Tori Brillantes, an Eskrima world champion and StrongFirst Elite instructor. Tori began serious Eskrima training later in life, went on to represent the United States, and became the women world champion in the Philippines. During that fight, she experienced what her teacher called the flow, a state where she seems to slow down and everything became clear. More than 2 decades later, she found that feeling again through StrongFirst Kettlebell Certification. At 66, Tori says she's the strongest she has ever been. If this conversation speaks to you, please consider subscribing to the podcast and leave a comment. I would love to hear what part of Tori's journey connect with you the most. Let's get started. Welcome to the Shugyo podcast.
Thank you so much.
I have a lot of questions that I wanted to ask you, and I know that before we start, I keep asking you questions, so I'm saving it, right? So I wanted to go back to the beginning of your martial arts journey. You found Eskrima in a later point of your life. Can you let me know what drive you into discovering this art?
I actually was introduced when I was in my late 20s by a really good friend of mine who was a martial artist, also Filipino. He brought me to my first tournament, the Eskrima tournaments. So I actually got to see the fighting. And it was the first time I had seen it competing. And I was like, wait a minute, this is really cool. I would like to do that. And he brought me because he said, you should be doing this. This is our art. And so from there, I just kind of dabbled in it. He passed away, but the studios that he was at, he actually trained with Dan Inosanto, who was in Marina del Rey at that time, and Richard Bustillo. And I got to train with some of their students. And so I dabbled in that, but wasn't very serious about it, into my 30s. And then it wasn't until my late 40s actually it was after I had my daughter that we moved to San Diego. And I saw a workshop here in San Diego, and I said, just might as well pick it up again and see what that's like. And it was there that I started really diving into competing.
So it's the right moment at the right time, right? So you found the right place or home. What makes you kept at it and, makes you interested in go back at a later age to perfect what you have already started?
It's interesting how it all kind of played out, because when I started at this studio, or I just went to this workshop in San Diego, my daughter was 4 years old, but it was the grandmaster just happened to be there from the Philippines. And this was with Doce Pares from Cebu. And the grandmaster happened to be at this particular seminar because his nieces and nephews were holding it. Putting it together. But the master at the time, or the senior teacher, who is Ramon Rubia, was the one who actually approached me after the whole workshop, because I had dabbled in it before, but they had asked if I'd ever been interested in competing in the tournaments. And I said, well, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. And so the grandmaster also came and talked to me and said, we need more females to come out and represent what Filipino martial arts is, the Eskrima, Kali. And so they took me pretty much under their wing. And at that time, Ramon was training in his garage with his students in Orange County, Buena Park. And so I was invited to go there, and I met the team, and I met his wife. Now, his wife is really interesting because she is the granddaughter and the grandniece of the original Doce Pares club in Cebu, and they were put together in 1932. So she has a great lineage with them. and her dad was one of the masters there. So her and her siblings all trained there. And so I got to train with her and Ramon. And Ramon became a head instructor with Richard Bustillo, who was Richard Bustillo and Dan Insano partnered, and then they opened 2 different studios. So Ramon worked with Bustillo, and that's who I ultimately and still am training with. And so it was that one time I went to Orange County. Now, I had a 4-year-old daughter at this time. I would go there and just get introduced to the striking patterns and everything. They just so happened to have a tournament that was about 2 months away from when I started. And they said, I should compete. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? And he said, there's something within you that needs to come out. And so the Grandmaster said, there's an ability that you have that I don't think you know you have. And that's where I was like, oh, okay. It's just, it was natural to them, but very unnatural for me. I was more excited about, okay, cool. I get to learn with the Dos Fares. That was the school that I wanted to learn from. That was a tournament I went to and I saw them.
Couple questions for you. Like at that time, you probably are doing well and probably your movement are pretty good for the Grandmaster and then all the instructor to talk to you afterward. What was going through your mind when they asked you, invite you to train with them and to learn more and potentially be going to the competition? Were you more scared, unknown, or were you excited, that you could actually compete?
My instinct was fear because I didn't know ever how to compete and having seen the tournament before, there's no way I can do that. But at this time, I was an instructor still in fitness. So I knew I was in pretty good shape. And so there was exactly what you said. So I was the ability and the natural movement, it just hit. It was something that I had really good ease in coming. So there was a fear at first, but then a confidence because of Ramon and the belief that he had in me. And when he broke down what it was to compete, and all I had to do was actually make it through the 3 rounds, because the Eskrima tournaments and the fightings is like boxing. It's like 3 minutes, 3 rounds, unless you go into overtime. But what he did to encourage me was really taught me just some basic strikes of where to hit when you're competing. And so I bypassed all of I'll say the techniques and the forms and everything, because I only had 2 months to learn how to compete in this tournament that they wanted me to go into. And so all they did was teach me, this is how you strike, this is how you breathe. They threw the equipment on me. I'm like, okay.
So like
it was all of it.
protection armor, padding. Okay.
Yeah. The helmet itself is probably a good 8 to 10 pounds because of the grill at the time when I was learning.
So is it like fencing? Like, can you walk us through? I'm not familiar with Eskrima competition. So what type of armor, can you describe it a little bit so we can kind of picture what going through your mind at that point, Tori?
Oh, okay. So picture a samurai fighter. So the gear, there's pads on the gears, and you're covered with it goes all around your body. The hand protection were lacrosse gloves at the time, and the helmet had a huge grill, metal, and then it came over your head, and then you had to strap it on from the back.
Kind of like fencing, right?
Yes. Heavier than fencing. So picture fencing, but a bigger helmet and more protection, because they did a lot more padding on the ears.
So with all the padding, then it's really full contact, right? You go all out.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How does that feel when getting hit? Like, I'm sure that...
It's shocking, to say the least. I mean, you definitely feel the impact. I mean, I had I broken rib, broken fingers, and just going through our practicing, but you feel the impact of it. But there's because of the protection, you become like, okay, used to it. And the headgear itself, you had to get used to hearing it was like a ting, ting, ting on the face grill. Because although we're not allowed to, when we compete, hit on the face, there are strikes that are going to cross the body over the head. And of course, not everybody fights clean, so you're going to get hit in the head. So there was a lot of getting used to being in the gear and then trying to fight and strike being in the gear as well. So it was heavy at the time that I competed. Nowadays, the gear, they've really improved the headgear and the body armor itself. And even the gloves are better.
So going back to the training, getting you ready, the grandmaster giving you crash course, right? Skipping everything and just showing you the technique that works. So what happened then? Like, walk me up to the actual competition.
And so the grandmaster went back to the Philippines. So I was with Ramon and Eva Rubiad. So they were practicing. At the time that I was practicing, I was the only female that was going to compete at this particular tournament. So this was a tournament just to get Eskrima out there, and it was a local one in Buena Park. So because they lived in Orange County or Buena Park, and I lived in San Diego, I only had opportunity to train with them once a week. And so when I would go there once a week, it would be with the team and with them, and we would the main thing was just getting yourself into shape and getting into fighting shape and getting used to being hit and striking back. So a lot of that was with the team. On my own, because I wasn't able to train with them, because the team was training with Ramon. Like some of them were training 3 to 4 days a week with him. I had 1 day with the team. So Ramon suggested that I get tires, and I stacked them up. And I would practice my strikes. And I'm telling you, there's 6 strikes that he showed me that are legal. And those are the only things that I practice. But in the fight, it's whatever goes in the fight. It happens so quickly. But I knew my pattern. And it was 2 high strikes, 2 mid strikes, and 2 lower. But we could not go below the waist. To the waist. You can go below, like you can hit sometimes legs. But it happens so quickly. And unlike fencing, the one-on-one where there's one linear line that you go back and forth, Eskrima Kali is like boxing. So you have one hand, one stick, and you have one hand to block, you have one hand to strike. And so it's going back and forth like throwing punches. But then you have different lines of striking. Like you can't stay just on top of the head. You can go to the high line, you can go to the mid line, you can go to the low line. You can't stay on one line only. So it's constantly moving high and low. And so you're getting judged on when the judges, there's 4 judges on each corner, on the corners, and they're looking at your striking patterns and how many how well you move the stick within your strike. So a lot of that was just, the tires helped me because I would just pattern that. I would picture the neck, the chest and lower body, uppercuts, lower cuts. We cannot thrust. You can only strike. And the striking is very, you can't just strike in one line. You have to switch sides also. So that type of training, was a lot of cardiovascular. I had to do a lot of running, which I'm not a runner. But it's also, I would run with my stick and actively go through the strikes when I was running. I didn't know how to train.
People look at you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I
But they won't come close because like you're holding 2 sticks, like no one there to come close will ask you what you're doing.
Exactly. And I had to run. I did, for my own training, I practiced with my gloves because I had to switch switch my stick to the other hand because you can't strike with only one hand through the whole 3 minutes. So it's learning how to continue a strike with the opposite hand too. So you have a weak side, strong side. I found and discovered that my right side was faster, but my left hand had more impact when I would strike. But you have the gloves on again. And so you have to be careful not to drop your stick because that's how points are taken away if you drop your stick or if you get disarmed. And so they're grabbing your stick, pulling you in, and then striking you at the same time. So it's learning how to come in and out. So there is a pattern of, footwork along with the pattern of your stick work. And then the pushing away and you trying to grab the other stick or do blocking of the strikes. And that was my biggest fear because my breathing was not up to par with that type of impacting. So I had to learn, my own training was learning to breathe properly and then to move with power. And when I would go there once a week, we would practice without our gear first and just our gloves. And then we would get into one of the biggest things, which is one of my biggest fears, but I got over it, was a round robin. At the time that I was competing, there was like 5 of us that were going to compete in this particular tournament. My first tournament, I was going in as a novice. They called it the round robin. And you're in the center of the ring. And you have 30 seconds with each fighter that you had to go in. So the clock would go. One fighter would come in, and then the clock would stop the next fight. So you have to fight everybody within that ring.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then it's by point? Like, so if you
No,
score more points-
this was just practice for us. This is how Doce Pares at the time, Ramon, made us practice, and, picking up our wind, getting our coordination, using our footwork, and then for me, because it was all men, my strikes I really had to reach out because they were all bigger than me. For them, it was just tapping like on my head because I was shorter than them. So it was just great training for me. And my first round robin, I had to get out. I almost passed out. I mean, I was like, this is crazy. But that's the type of training that it prepared me for my first tournament, at which I won my first tournament as a novice.
Were you equally matched, or because with the training that you have and with the, technique that was given to you, you are well prepared for that first tournament?
Oh, 100%, because I would fight women my same height. I had to practice with all men. And so for me to strike lower, I was like, okay, cool, because it was my level. It was
so
like
you were training at a higher level than when you get to, people that, equal to you with the same size, same group, then you actually perform much better.
Yes, 100%. And I had the advantage because I was training with some of the best people. You're looking at world champions and, all of the competitors, most of the instructors were already like at that senior level. I had great instructors.
So walk us through the process. I know that you later on went to a championship fight in the Philippines. Can you walk us through that process, and how did you prepare for that tournament?
That tournament was completely different. Now, in order to even make it to the U.S. team and be able to travel to Cebu or wherever they have the tournament, there were a series of tournaments that you had to compete in, and that's how you qualified for each one. If you got enough points or if you won enough, then you qualified to go to the World Championship, which at the time that I was in Cebu. So there was a series of, I think there was 5 tournaments that I had to compete in. And that really, it's just getting you into the ring and getting used to what you had to do and strike. And that was most of the conditioning. And then your nerves and getting used to that. So I was entered into the tournaments that led up to the team. And then I went to Cebu. So there was one tournament that really turned it for me even more so, where I was the only female in the whole tournament that was there to compete. And they almost didn't allow me to compete because I was the only female, but they had to stop the tournament. They went into the meeting, the grandmaster, and then Ramon, my teacher at the time, went in and they had a meeting. And so they agreed, because I said, if I don't compete here, is this going to disqualify me to go to the World Championship? And they were just going to pass me through. And I was like, well, I don't want a pass through. I want to be able to compete like everybody else. I don't want the freebie. And so they had to they came up with the idea that I would fight the novice men. That would be kind of where I would be, or enable me to compete. And this was the turnover for me, where gearing up to go to the championship, the World Championship, this was the turning point for me because I was the only female that competed. How
did you do? Like, were you afraid, or because of your training, you probably, it's just another day, training, I'm not afraid?
It was both. There was fear because, you get used to your teammates and you start seeing the patterns that your teammates have, although they were all men. So there was a fear, but then for me, it was like, it was just to get it done. And I wanted to do it this way. So I had 2 fights for the novice. If you won the first fight, then you go into the next, and then you're the winner of that novice division. And so, yeah, there was fear, but there was also, again, I had my teammates who were just amazing for me and this support. And they said, "You fight us, Tori. You're just going in. It's just another practice. Just go in." And then my mindset was completely different. So I went in and I won the first fight. And for me, it was like I knew I was very small, but I knew I was faster than them. And one of my mentors said, "You're faster, so wear them out. Just wear them out." Like they knew my strikes weren't going to do anything. But the main thing was that the more tired they got, the more advantage I got. And that's exactly how I won. I did the first tournament. My ring was the most crowded ring to watch because everyone was, it was unlike anything that they had done before to have a female and a male. But Eskrima knows no boundaries, right? And that's just what I was taught is like, if you're alone, you've got to fight whoever you fight. So it was, I won the first guy, and the first guy had to be like 6'2", 200.
Wow.
And I knew I had him from the start. There was no doubt in my mind. I knew how to wear him out. And my strikes were hitting his waist, and he couldn't help but hit my head because he was taller than me. But the more I got hit in the head, that really pushed me even further because it started getting annoying. So I was like, okay, we have to do this. I have to do it in a way that I can. And it was just my movement. You know, my strikes didn't do anything, but I had a great striking pattern. I was fast enough, and I really wore him out. And so the next guy that I had to fight was like, "Oh, I got this, no problem." Like, I know he got to watch me fight, but I did the same thing. And it was just the wear out. And that was due to my own conditioning and knowing that I didn't have the fear of fighting a man because that's all I practiced with. So that was my advantage. And so that actually became a big thing in Cebu when I went over there. There was articles about me that I didn't know about that were written coming in from the United States. She fought. She was the only female. And so I was pretty much marked. And I was told that before, but I thought, okay.
I believe that someone told me that how you train is how you're going to fight, right? Yeah. Because of your training, because thinking back, like from you talking, Tori, like with all the senior instructor, like they're world class, right? So you actually were training with them. You actually training at a much higher level than I think a lot of the novice will be. Like they don't even get to train with the master level, right?
Exactly.
So when you actually compete with them, even though they have a physical size advantage, and you just have some fun with them.
Exactly. I always was grateful for everything. I believe happens for a reason. And so for me to fall into the teacher and the workshop that I did, I already had the advantage of any type of learning and any type of competing, because everybody comes to them to learn also. They're the ones putting out the seminars and workshops for everyone as well.
So walk me through, and let's go to the final match at the championship, right? So you became a celebrity, that everyone is looking to, beat, and then you made it to the final. So walk us through what happened in the final and what you experienced at that time.
The last fight, there were three rounds that I had, and it was a draw. And we had been told that could happen because nothing's going to be really easy for the United States anyway. And so we all trained to go 4 or 5 minutes on a fight anyway. So we were in that condition. So I had no fear about that. But I knew it was a draw when I competed. And the woman that we were very well matched. She was the world champion the year before. So we were the same size. I was older. At this time, I was 40 years old when I competed in this tournament. It was well matched. So after the third round, they said, we're going for the fourth round. So this is 3 minutes after, and I'm in the fourth round for the world championship for the women because I already had my semifinal fight. It was in this round that there were so many life-changing things that happened, but this one completely flipped me 360 degrees because I went into a state of, we were competing, was coming in and she was holding her stick with 2 hands and striking me, which was illegal. And I saw one strike coming in, but it was crystal clear and it was so slow. I can actively hear the stick come down. I can hear myself breathing, which I've never experienced before. And then I went to move, or I thought I was moving to strike up, and I can see my stick coming up, but it was so slow. And I got so afraid, like what was happening to me. I had no idea what was happening to me. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I have to strike her, but how come I'm so slow? Like, what is happening? Why can I hear myself breathe? How come I can see my stick going up? I can see my hand going up for the block. So I was scared, but then it was a battle of my own mind going, keep going, don't stop. And the other, my other part of my mind is, why are you so slow? What's happening to you? And so it was, we were just going through, I can't even tell you how long that state was, because I felt like it broke. I heard Ramon's voice like, keep going, Tori, keep going, Tori. And then I heard the whistle, and then they broke us apart. And that was the end of the fight. And I actually started tearing up going, oh man, I really messed up. I think I lost it. I was so slow. I couldn't believe it. And my breathing was, it was like, okay, it wasn't like my first fight where the breathing was so hard. And so they walked us to our corners, and I went to Ramon, and I had my grill on. He can see I was ready to cry. And he just looked at me and shook his head. And I said, okay, so he knows I lost. So it's okay, no big deal, because he was calm about it. And then they brought us back to the center ring, and they were saying all the announcements. And then they said, Tori Brillantes. And he raised up my hand, and I'm like, wait, what? There's a world champion. I'm like, what?
Wow.
It was insane. Then I really started crying. It was like, oh my God, how did that happen? It was after that. And then all my teammates was gathered in the ring, and my dad was there, and he was crying, and I was crying. And afterwards, when all the hoopla was done, Ramon took me to the corner, and I was crying, and I said, dude, I was so slow. I didn't know what was happening. I can hear my breathing. I can see your strikes. I was talking so fast when I was talking to him, and he just stared at me and smiled, and he said, Tori, welcome to the flow. And I said, flow? What do you mean? He goes, and he was the one who explained, is like, the best way to describe it, he said, is like, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, or any of the Olympic, they get into a flow of being in the moment at the moment. And when that happens, everything slows down and everything becomes crystal clear. And you actually can see what they're doing. And so, Kobe Bryant, he's trying to make a shot, but he's got hands and he's being pushed, but he can see the basket and the target. That's flow. So you're in it at that time. And so when he explained it to me that way, I was like, that's exactly how I felt. But I was the struggle and the fear of, oh my, I don't know what's happening. And that's what changed me 360 degrees in my training and my mindset, and in how I was going to approach everything else now, because to have that one feeling is unlike anything I've ever experienced. And from what I read on and studied at the time, is just like, it's a rarity to find that or get into that. It's pure concentration and pure awareness of what you're doing. It's such a hyper focus, which I knew I was in, but I didn't know it was going to get to that point. It's scary when you don't know what it is, but that's what changed me during that fight. It was a total shock when I won. And everyone said, Tori, you actually got faster. And I said, I felt like I was going slower. And my striking got cleaner. And there was a calm about my breathing, because I was able to talk to myself and go, what is happening here? And like, keep going. But what is happening here?
Well, if you mention Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, right? The flow that you mentioned normally happens at crunch time, right?
Yes.
At the end, you have 2 seconds, right? And you have to, go inbound and shoot the final shot. I would guess, I don't assume that I know what you're going through, but maybe at the time you're already past the point for nervous, right? Nervousness.
Yes.
And then you probably are tired, right?
Yes.
As you probably are. And then your mind can only focus on one thing. And that's what you focus on. And then that actually made you perform better. That would be my guess on what going through, but
Spot on. I mean, that was spot on. I knew I had a minute left. I also knew that the judges were not on my side. And it was
mm,
just like, it's proving time. And and I knew she was doing things illegally. So again, my mind was just like in that tweak. I'm already pretty focused when I want to go into a task, but that really, I think, made me go into that. They actually, in flow, they call it the clutch time. And clutch time is the one where you know that this is it, and you're either in it or you're not. And it's
mm.
that movement, exactly what you described is exactly how I felt, because there was no longer the fear of it. It was just, I knew I had a job to get done, and I knew I had the ability, but to slow down and see things go slow, there was that fear. So that, like I said, it was a struggle, and I just did what I did.
Thanks for sharing that. Let's switch and move forward a little bit. So life happens, things go on, and tell us when you in your 60s. So what happened when you discover Strong First?
I had dabbled in kettlebells when I was in my 50s. And it wasn't until late 50s and into my 60s that I had met one of the StrongFirst senior instructors, Johanna. And she was at the same gym that I was at. And I watched her actually doing classes and trained. And we became very good friends. And so she was very intriguing to me and very encouraging. It's like, oh, you should check this out. I'm an instructor for StrongFirst, and she had invited me to like the body weight workshop and stuff. And it wasn't until, I would say, 2 years. I'm 66 right now, and I started actually at 64 with StrongFirst, but it's just playing with kettlebells. But to get into what StrongFirst introduced to me was because Johanna had seen me post something on Instagram, and I was doing heavy kettlebells. And at that time, I still train with my coach. He was teaching me more kettlebells. I wanted to get a little bit better, and he was the one that said, you should check out StrongFirst. And then Johanna approached me again, said, hey. She saw me with this one post and said, why aren't you an instructor for StrongFirst? And I was like, I don't know.
So you kept in fitness, you're staying in good shape. So battling
absolutely.
from tools, and you found it. What makes you think kettlebell helped you to develop the fitness that you wanted at that time?
It changed my approach on it, because it changed my body and the way, the development of how I was moving. The thing about kettlebells, there's a flow about the kettlebell, and then there's power and control with the kettlebell. And it's unlike anything than just working with dumbbells or machines, because as an instructor, I've had opportunity to work with a lot of different pieces of equipment and different types of training and body weight and stuff. But the kettlebell intrigued me because as I played with it and got to know it and understood, like, even the stance and the grip of the kettlebell, that's what changed it. I think what the best way I can describe kettlebell is the efficiency that it teaches you in breathing and strength and power all at once, because there is no cheating with the kettlebell. It's very precise in even the breathing and setup before you even move the kettlebell. And it's kind of like when I was learning how to stick fight, like, I couldn't be that conditioned if I didn't know the footwork or the striking pattern and how to power out. Because striking, it's like Bruce Lee says, there's that 1-inch punch. Well, I had to learn how to strike with that 1-inch punch, strike and with the stick, and learn how to switch. The kettlebell, the discipline of it is what sucked me in, where I knew this was something that I had to stay with, because I enjoy the structure of how they even set up your feet, how they teach you how to breathe, and then how to grip, where to grip, how to loosen the grip. I mean, all of that makes a difference. And I believe that if you learn how to do the kettlebells, everything else becomes second nature, like dumbbells. Even the barbell, I wasn't into barbells until I got with StrongFirst and understanding even how to brace your body, how to engage to get that proper power breath. And the mindset that changes was so great in the training because it was so similar to what I had to change in my breathing when I was learning how to fight.
Thanks for sharing that. And then the first certification that you took is the kettlebell certification, correct?
Yes, kettlebell SGF I, level 1. And with this is interesting because this certification actually totally brought me back to flow, which I had not had the opportunity or the need to, because in this particular certification, there is a test that you have to pass in order to become an instructor with, as you know, is the 100 snatches in 5 minutes. And you have a certain weight that you have to be able to attain that with. And the snatches is such a big movement. So there is momentum and there is power and control with it. And then there is a flow about it as well. And it was during my, it's interesting because it was during my 5-minute snatch test again, and I just realized this when in talking with you, sorry, like my last 20 snatches, I knew I had gotten into the 80s. My breathing started to calm down because I was there's that fear. And I went into this flow of the kettlebell going up, and I felt every snatch hit at the top, and my breathing got better. And I can hear Brett Jones say, "It's not a race, Tori," because I was going so fast.
How much time do you have left on the last 20 ones?
It was the last minute. It was and I had the 20 snatches, and I finished it at 4:45. So I had it under 5 minutes, but it was again that clutch moment. And the flow, that's when I felt it again. And the exhaustion afterwards, I said it to Ben, who is my coach, and I said, "Man, I haven't felt this way since the last time I fought in the championship." And then it all just kind of came full circle for me there. The snatch test is amazing. I didn't think I could do it. I trained for it, but man, the nerves when you're going in for a test is like fighting. It's completely different than when you're practicing it.
Yeah. Tori, I think I see the pattern here by talking to you, by seeing, all the questions that I wrote for you. Once you set your mind on doing something, you really dive into it. You probably are being humble, right? There are probably a lot of things that go through at the time that you're not sharing with us. You also, from the time that you start, training with StrongFirst, within 2 years, you became the StrongFirst Elite status. Can you first of all tell listener what a StrongFirst Elite entail, and how did you train within 2 years to become that status?
It's the consistency of what I did, because once I passed the SGF I, SGF II was the next one, and I had just continued practicing with everything I did with SGF I. And so I kept up on that along with just my regular training. And so I had like 5 months before the next SGF II. So I practiced for that. That SGF II is actually working with double kettlebells, and you go into windmills, which is and the push press and double snatches and everything. So the SGF is a lot more intense as far as learning, like swinging with 2 bells now and working with the 2 bells. And so I had practiced that and trained with my coach then. And so the 5 months, then I went in and I did that certification. So that's 2. There's 4 certification that you must pass and maintain to be an elite instructor for StrongFirst. SGF I, which is kettlebell 1 and 2. There's body weight, and there's barbell lifters. So you have to be able to train in that and pass all the tests for that. So 5 months later, I did SGF II. I went to body weight, which was coming up, and I actually trained with Coach Karen and she was the senior instructor who did SGF II. She was going to be doing the body weight, and I needed training for that because the body weight requires one arm push-ups for females and one arm and one leg for males. You have to be able to do a strong pull-up, and you have to do a pistol squat. And I'd never done any of that before. I could do pull-ups, but not the StrongFirst way. And so I worked with Coach Karen from there, and I think it was like 5 months again, 4 or 5 months again. So I have 2 certifications done. I'm going for my 3rd one, which I went to with body weight. And that was another 4 months or 5 months. And I trained, and she wrote the program. So I was learning the pistol squat because the one arm push up, I had no idea in the training. And again, so I think you pretty much pegged it, is that when I have a task to do, that's what I focus on. So all my training was for 2 years was heavy, the kettlebells, the double kettlebells, the body weight, the pull-ups in the training every time I trained, because I knew I was gearing up for another certification. I actually did not pass all the tests for the body weight. The one arm push-up was the only test that I did not pass, but I was able to do the pistol squat, which is the single leg pistol squat. And then I was able to do the pull-up, which was not a problem, but the one arm push-up. So I had to send in a video and trained intently again with Coach Karen and her exercises. And it was literally the deadline, the day before the deadline, I had to send in my video, and I got it done again. So I passed that body weight. And then 3 months later, I believe, it was like I can't remember the months exactly, it was barbell. And I had not worked with a lot of barbells either. But because of the training that I had gone through with all the certifications, I understood breath, I understood power, I understood understanding how to not to burn out your reps, to say 2 reps and keep your body strong so that you're not tearing down. And barbell, I had to do chest press, I had to do military press and squats with the barbell, which I had not played with a lot, but I had 3 months. And because of my training before, the breathing was already there. So I just had to get the technique down. And I got certified with that one. My 4th one was with Dr. Hartle. Gosh, that was just last year. And so I actually went for my elite when I got to assist my first SGF I certification. I got qualified to be an instructor assistant. And that's when I tried out for my elite status. And I had to go through all the testing before I helped as an assistant instructor. And then I got certified and passed for the elite. And that was within
Tori,
2 years.
I would just say, I envy you. And then while you're talking, my body hurts. I going through all that, and I think, how is Tori able to? I know that from probably training for the SFG II, you have to do the press, right? Which is the very difficult thing to do. That probably translate a little bit to the push-ups.
Absolutely.
Right? And then probably from the SFB that you did, you probably get dialed in all the body tension, which kind of helps you with the barbell, right? Which require you to be strong. But if you don't mind me asking you, like at your age at that time, what does a normal training week look like for you? How do you balance the training, the mobility, and then the recovery? Because like Tori makes it sound easy and she's calm when just saying all the things going on. But then I'm sure that the actual training is not for normal people. Like I don't recommend nobody to go in that time schedule. It's tough, right?
It's really tough. And there's a lot given up, especially when the way that I went about doing it for each certification. I mean, the discipline of, I had to schedule in my training, a certain amount of training. My mobility was done daily. I had to have that because you're only as strong as your mobility. So that actually, I took more time with mobility than the actual training. And my repetitions were stay low, and I practice at a pace or I'll say at a repetition where I knew that each repetition was perfection and I wouldn't overdo it. And sometimes my workouts were anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour. And then the rest day, I had to schedule the rest day. And a rest day could, sometimes it was just like really just doing cardiovascular things or my mobility and the concentration of just what I had to do to get through all the testing. So yeah, it's I wouldn't recommend it for people. I mean, a lot of people would have the wherewithal, but there again, that was my focus. You couldn't have told me that within 2 years I would get to be an elite, because the first certification I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. I passed this first one.
Yeah, even for people who are much younger, like I don't think like 2 years is just crazy.
Yeah. And all the instructors, I was like, Johanna, it was like, it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish. And so it was work. It was work. I don't recommend it. And my family, and they all know when I'm focused in is like that they don't bother me. There are things that I missed because I have to, get a workout in, or things I can't have because of my workouts. And it's same with my daughter. She's like, okay, my mom's on this thing, so I know we can just keep it good. She's on this. And so, yeah, I mean, thank you for saying what you did, because it is with my own humility, I don't talk about it a lot. And the opportunity to be able to share that, as an instructor, as a trainer, as a coach, of people, women, men, and seniors, they really don't know the intricacy of what I do to attain and maintain. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize that. But when you have that love, or you have that passion, and my goal for life is this is my mantra for life is I'm not, as I get older, my goal is not to have to use a walker or a wheelchair or anything. And I always say, I'm going to be that person that when I know I'm going to go, I'll dig my own grave and walk down the grave and say, peace.
Yeah. I think for the conversation, so to put some context of it, on the show note, I'll actually find all the requirements. I think StrongFirst have a video to demonstrate all the requirements for each of the certification. I will post it on the show notes. If anyone is interested, just watch it and then think if you could do that in 2 years, then yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, Tori, is a pattern, right, from your days in training for the Eskrima, and then when you discover StrongFirst, I think when you set your mind into it, you really focus. And I think that you are very disciplined person, because you mentioned some of it for the plan that probably Coach Karen or others design for you, and you stick with that. Because a lot of time when we do martial arts or when we do strength training, we want to do one more rep, or maybe we see the other person at the gym, for example, maybe putting on another plate. We want to say, oh, okay, I could do another plate, or maybe you could play around, right? And I don't think none of that would happen in your training program. Like, I could already see the Tori there, laser focus. It's like a job, right? You go into the job and then you're done. And then you actually, like you said, focus on the mobility, focus on the recovery, because when we age, right, we just don't recover as good as when we're 20s or when you're teenagers anymore.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to put discipline. Discipline doesn't come just knowing that you're going to get your workouts in and everything. It's being disciplined to actually get enough protein, get enough carbohydrates, get enough sleep, and it was key for me, all of that. And that started early in my training for my first tournament. There was no way I was going to be able to party out or eat as poorly as I was before if I wanted to be able to last the 3 to 5 minutes that I was training with. And what brought that to is like, I was the only female at the time. So it's like I had to not really feel that I had to keep up with the men, because obviously I knew I wouldn't be able to, but I wanted to be able to be at a level to where I can actually fight with them and give them a good fighting partner when we were sparring also. So the discipline, you're right. So you hit it on the nose. It's not just getting your workouts in. You have to be smart about, not overdoing the training either, because you want to be able to come into the next training fresh. And so I never came out of my trainings where I was totally burnt out or unattainable or so sore or anything. My training was, I would train 5-6 days a week when I was getting in gear, but felt great after. But it was, everything was in line. I always make sure everything was in line. You have
That's
to.
great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think getting the relaxation part and getting the day off, and sometimes for us who love to train are the difficult part, not the training itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tori, and I know that you are a trainer yourself right now. You
Yes.
train mostly people ages of 60 and above.
Yes.
You don't train the same way that you train yourself on the elite, right? Like, how would you approach for training someone who are getting older and wanted to stay fit and for the longevity?
It begins really with a mindset, because at that age, a lot of times people are thinking that they're pretty much done, that like, I don't know that I can do that, or I don't feel like I can, and the bodies aren't moving as properly. So the mindset, I always let them know that anything is attainable if it's done in the proper way. And again, this philosophy goes through my martial arts and StrongFirst, because the philosophy is to always keep your body strong no matter what. That's why it's StrongFirst. And so that could start with the mind. And for my older clients, it's always letting them know that, giving them the confidence that yes, you can do this. And it's starting them slowly, and letting them know that it's easier than you think. So you can't throw the same type of training that you would a 20, 30, 40-year-old to a 60, 70, or 80-year-old, because their confidence isn't that built up. And so giving them the tools to do that first, and starting them in a place where they can relate, like just standing up and down from a chair, that's basically the foundation of a squat. And then giving them something to hold, like small weights, and just move within that, walk around with it, and get their hands used to gripping. So it's a different way, a different mindset of training people at that age. And I, don't get me wrong, some of my 60-year-old women are some of the strongest women. They were either runners before, but I came in the strength part of them to make them better runners. And and so now they're all the kettlebells and the weights and barbells. I have them deadlifting, and then they're finding that their running gets better. But it's all starts, I'm talking years of training with them, and then I start introducing different things to them. That's what makes me a different trainer. I don't throw everything at them at once, because mindset is everything for them, to make sure that they feel confident knowing that they can do it. That's everything.
So that, from what you're saying, can be taught, right? So if you,
Absolutely.
let's say, have say no and don't want to try mindset, then with the good persuasion, and you probably show them a lot of different demo, then it could be taught. And once they change their mindset, whatever may be stuck or maybe wasn't able to do, at least have a chance for improving.
Absolutely. I've seen it. I mean, I have proof of what I teach and what I've done with just the people that I've seen in the years that I've done that. I have an 80-year-old man that was a marathon runner and did no weights or anything. And at 80, he was slowing down, and so now he's resistance training. His posture is better. And he still is running. He's slowing down just because age is just catching up to him. But he's able to do push-ups. He's able to do overhead presses with dumbbells. He's holding 15-pound dumbbells. He's doing, rows with a 20-pound. And his friends keep asking him, "What are you doing?" Because it's so different now. And the things that we have to think about too is, as in fitness, and as we get older, it's not so much about the aesthetics anymore. It's going to be more about, holding on to your muscle, building muscle, holding on to muscle, making strong bones for my ladies who are perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. These are the things that are give us like a better health span. You want a healthy life, but you want the health span to be right up there with your lifespan. And that's really where that demographic changes a lot. What you do in your 30s is going to equal what you're going to be like in your 50s. But you can start at your 50s and start gearing up for your 70s. And that's the beauty of being physically well, I'll say.
Yeah, I think strength is a skills, right? Even when you say, standing up, when you're sitting from the chair, a lot of us, when we get older, like our hips is not moving,
Yep,
like our butt muscle is not firing it up. So you can't
absolutely.
stand up from a easy chair. So, but you need to know how to using strength, right? You have to lower maybe your body position a little bit, then you can stand up. Or even when you are young, right? When you pick up a box from your trunk, like all of us didn't get hurt because we put up the heaviest weight that you can at the gym, but by picking up a box from your car, you get hurt, right?
Exactly.
So I think going back, the strength is a skills, and this is something that is not just seeing it look good on Instagram. It's something you do need to spend time to develop it.
It's necessity to have muscle as we get older. And that's what the mindset, should change to. More muscle, more bone health is much better for a healthier lifespan, because that should be the goal now. And also all my clients have that mindset. It's like the bonus is that because you have more muscle, or because you have the mobility, the movement is easier in everyday life. Your recovery from even being sick is a lot better. And muscle makes you maintain anything in life. If you happen to trip and you can recover, that's all strength and muscle coordination, stability. That's what we should be all working towards. So if sedentary doesn't give you anything, and you mentioned, the glutes. The glute muscles are the ones that aren't firing off first. And if you don't have that, everyday movement, lower back pain, everything comes into play at that time. And so it should always be, the goal should always be, is like, I want to be a better mover. My breathing will be better if I'm moving better. I would love to move without pain. That's, a big thing. And we take advantage of that because we can as we're younger. We just have to be smarter about what we want to be like when we're in our 80s and goals. Because I already told you what I'll be doing.
For a listener who want to find out more about your work and maybe to reach out to you, what would be the best way?
I have a website that you can go to, brilliantbodyandmind.com, and then Instagram as well. Look up Tori Brillantes on Instagram, and they'll find and see a lot of what I do. That I could say that Instagram mostly is like my calling card or my business card, because what you see, you'll be able to see what I do, and you'll see what my clients do as well. And my website is like, we can get into a phone call and writing programs and things like that.
I'll list both on the show notes. And Tori, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all the wonderful stories.
Thank you so much for having me. So I really enjoyed it. I love the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.